tardy time of 9:45. Again, no one's carried. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioners Joliet,
Here.
Jackson,
Here.
Lubes,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Hoffman,
Present.
Spiz,
Present.
Gilbert is absent with notice.
Wait.
Johnson,
Present.
Chair Quorum.
Thank you very much.
I
Everyone.
am also ex officio
Oh,
on
I'm
this.
sorry.
That's okay.
Commissioner Gershenson is here as ex officio. And Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And we're glad you're here. Everyone please rise, and Commissioner Gershenson, would you kindly lead us in the pledge of
Oh,
allegiance?
happy to.
We remember.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of July 25th, moved by Commissioner Lubes, seconded by Commissioner Joliet. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have that one. I would entertain a motion to approve today's agenda, moved by Commissioner Gershenson. Oh, is that a question?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to acknowledge under communications B, so I don't know if that means taking it off the agenda and just reading the title or whether you'll read the title. I just want this to be noted by
Did you want-
people.
I can have discussion open for that too.
Yeah, I don't know that there's much discussion other than I just wanted to acknowledge this resolution by the city of Berkeley.
I appreciate that. I will read it by title. Yeah,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Anything else before we approve the agenda? Just a note on the agenda, we might have to bop regular agenda item A till a little bit later.
Later?
We don't
Or
see him.
leaving it?
Pardon me?
Is he gonna be here on time or should we just remove it from the
On
agenda?
time is doing a lot of heavy lifting with that, but he should be here.
He may not be here. He does have the option to join remotely. I've spoken to his office. He's stuck in a meeting, so I suggested he join remotely so that we don't have to reschedule him. It just means he may be joining late.
Cause this is the reschedule too.
I know.
Yeah, okay.
I would.
Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for some clarification in regards to the resolution that Commissioner Gershenson had picked out in communications, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do we know if this is, so for example, I know that there are some pet stores who take in strays, abandoned, so almost like the animal shelter. Is this prohibiting animals?
I'm gonna, I'll open that up for discussion and we can just discuss.
Thank you.
Yeah, so all those in favor of approving the agenda, or did I have a motion?
Not yet.
No, motion to approve the agenda, Commissioner Jackson.
Don't we have a motion on the floor to receive and file for communications first, which we did vote on?
No, I'm
Communications
just
is after.
approving the agenda.
We were just talking about the agenda.
I'm sorry, I'm already down to the agenda.
I know. So Bob, Commissioner Nelson, two when we get there, but
Alright, gotcha.
approving the agenda, Commissioner Jackson, and seconded by Commissioner Lubes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The agenda's been approved. Opening up to public comment number 1. Anyone from the public wishing to address us on any item on the agenda, please make yourself known. Seeing none, we'll move on to communications then. All right, communication A, Human Resources Fiscal Year 2024 Classification and Salaries Recommendation. I am opening this one to any discussion too. Anyone have anything to say? Questions, comments, concerns? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to receive and file. Moved by Commissioner Lubes, seconded by Commissioner Spiz. Madam Clerk, would you please prompt that vote?
Nelson, Spiz?
Better hit save.
Okay. Mr. Chair, you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Awesome, thank you very much, everyone. Now, communication item B, open the floor to any discussion, any questions, comments, concerns, Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just for clarification, do we know if this is prohibiting people being able to surrender their animals, because I know oftentimes like animal control will often utilize like Pet Supplies Plus, for example, and they'll drop off, and they're usually cats. I don't think these are dogs, but I know that there are opportunities for like animal control across our municipalities that drop off. Is this specific resolution speaking to that?
This is a good question.
So within the resolution, it does say it doesn't prohibit adoptions through rescues. It's the sale and discouraging the use of puppy mills.
Thank you. That was what I was looking for. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Christensen?
Good.
Anyone? All right, I would entertain a motion to receive and file. Commissioner Christensen, seconded by Commissioner Spiz. Madam Clerk, please pump that vote.
We're just receiving and filing this?
Yes.
Because it's just a communication.
Mr. Chair, you have any nays, nays?
Awesome, thank you very much. All right, moving on to our regular agenda. I am going to, with all of your permission, move to regular agenda item B for now. I would entertain a motion to recommend and forward to finance, right? And then we just open it, okay, yeah, so getting used to this, guys. I would entertain a motion to recommend and receive, or recommend and forward to finance. Commissioner Hoffman, thank you very much. This is Human Resources 2023 and 2024 Supplemental Collective Bargaining Agreement for employees represented by the United Auto Workers Local 889 UAW, representing Board of Commissioners non-supervisory employees. Hi there.
Hello.
How are you?
Good morning.
Good.
Good morning.
Oh, a second, right, sorry, a second first. Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, good morning. My name is Dan Clemner. I'm our Chief of Labor and Employee Relations over at HR. Pleasure to see everyone. Hope everybody had a good long weekend. I'm sure is well deserved. So I'll be very brief and then I'll take any questions you may have. I'm before you here today on a supplement to the master union agreement for it's right in your backyard, Board of Commissioners, non-supervisory employees. I see Patty's joining us too. So this is Patty Dibbs' employees. There are 3 supervisors that are still not part of any collective bargaining group. This is for the individuals that are below that level. I'll just walk you through this very, very quickly. It's a very, first I can lead with saying there is absolutely zero financial impact on the county. The supplement first recognizes, involves all non-supervisory merit system employees of the BOC. It memorializes the existing and current wage scale. It requests, and without any sort of issue, a bulletin board for postings of various union announcements and employee-related announcements, and it proposes an alternative work schedule of 410s, subject to the approval of management, as well as what occurs for purposes of holiday pay during an overtime or with alternative work schedules, and that is it. There's already an existing master agreement with the UAW that'll be subject to renegotiation in a few years. But other than that, I'm happy to hear any questions or concerns that the commissioners may have. And after that, I will leave you to your other business.
Questions, comments, concerns? Commissioner Spiz?
Just wondering how this supplement, as you call it, right, affects, like when we have board meetings at night and things like that with the 410s, does it affect anything along those lines? Because I know it's up to the approval of the management staff, but I just want to make sure that there's caveat in there that make sure we're covered and we don't get into a situation where, I have my 410s in, sorry, I can't support the meeting that night.
Yeah,
That's one of my biggest worries.
Yep, of course, yeah, I'll defer to Patty on that, but.
The 410s are just an option.
Agree, but if somebody takes the option and then we get into a situation where we have a board meeting or a special meeting is called, that we need support from staff, I wanna make sure we're covered.
Yeah, I don't see any issues at all.
Yeah, and I can speak to how it works with other departments as well. So you have an existing, perhaps a 410 employee that's had it for, let's say, 6 years, right? And then I know the department I came from before I was at HR was corporation counsel, and we had some folks who were working 410s. If there's a court date on your day that is not, that you're not scheduled in, you adjust for that. So if someone has a 410, you call a special meeting, that person will cover that special meeting as needed and perhaps take that day off on another day. So it's flexible.
I just wanna make sure the wording in the contract allows for that, because I've heard horror stories, and I don't expect it from anybody here, but I've heard horror stories outside of that where it's the letter of the law and they're gonna stick to it, and then you're gonna get into a battle between that employee and or the union and us, which I want to avoid.
Yes, and it will be avoided.
Thank you.
Anything else? Go ahead, Commissioner Jay.
Just asking as far as, our staff and not pinpointing anybody, just the climate of grievances. Do we have an inordinate amount of grievances? It seems like we don't. And that would be basically invisible to us, unless we inquired within management like Patty. So even though we have union, non-supervisory employees, the contracts are in place, have been, what do I wanna say? Very fair as far as our workplace, as far as the employees and them not having to grieve a lot of things. Okay, thank you.
That's a good point.
Just asking.
No, we don't have, I wouldn't call it inordinate amount at all, whether it's before or after union protection attaches, yeah. No.
Okay.
Anything else? No? All right, well, Madam Clerk, would you please prompt the vote? Happy Labor Day.
Thank you.
Sure, yeah, 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item C, I would entertain a motion to approve Human Resources Extension of Certified Eligibility List by Commissioner Liu, second by Commissioner Joliet. It's Monday morning. Oh, no, it's not Monday. It's Tuesday. Still waking up. Yes.
The second one.
Thank you very much and welcome to the table. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ariane Fountain and I'm the supervisor of recruitment and human resources. I am here this morning to ask for your review and approval for the extension of the current sergeant eligibility list for an additional 6 months, which will actually take us to March 14th of 2024. The Sheriff's Office is anticipating retirements within the next few months and is planning to fill all of their vacancies by the end of the year. As far as their duties, all newly promoted sergeants are sent to the jail for training until substation vacancies become available. And their duties include management and oversight of the deputies and inmates. So upon your approval today, the Sheriff's Office will continue in their hiring efforts to fill their vacancies, the upcoming vacancies that they have for the remainder of the year.
Discussion, questions, concerns, Commissioner Joliet.
So they're
I'm sorry,
anticipating
Commissioner
filling all the vacancies?
Yes.
Fantastic,
Yes,
that's
by
great.
the end of the year, yes.
Who's ready?
Smith. Anything else?
Thank you.
Awesome. Madam Clerk, please put the vote.
Eight yeas, 0 nays.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Speeding right along, I would entertain a motion to recommend to the board item D, Executive's Office creating strategic partnership and grant administrative classifications and positions. Moved by Commissioner Griffinson, seconded by. I'll go ahead and second it. Hello.
Good morning, good morning. We discussed this a bit at our budget presentation, and this is really an idea that many of you remember kind of started here at the board table or in different caucuses that you had. And there was a lot of discussion I would say 2 or 3 years ago about would the county benefit from having, and the term changed. Sometimes it was referred to simply as a grant office, sometimes it was an office of innovation. You know, there was a lot of different ways that people described it, but basically thinking about whether we as a county needed to be more proactive about seeking support from external partners, whether it be grants from the federal or state government, or whether it be foundations, or whether it be other nonprofits. And I think that we all thought it was a really good idea, and we spent some time early on looking at other cities and counties that had, you know, these types of offices. But really, the CARES Act and then ARP kind of overshadowed it because we were receiving so much funding from the federal government. We didn't feel like it was the right time to kind of move out on this initiative. But obviously, as we've talked about, right, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of ARP. And I think what we've also learned during this period of time, during COVID and after COVID, that our partnerships that we've had have really been really instrumental. I mean, we could not have done the grants that we did without the partnership with United Way. You know, from the early on partnership that we did around nonprofits, childcare grants that we gave out, the mental health grants that we gave out, the out-of-school learning grants. I mean, they just handled it all very professionally, and that was a big assistance to us. The Ballmer Foundation was a new relationship that came out of COVID. Early on, you know, they helped fund some work in partnership with our workforce department. They helped fund some work in terms of outreach to religious entities around COVID safety. And of course, now we're working with them hand in glove on the I Promise concept in community and schools in Hazel Park, Southfield, and Pontiac. Another partnership that emerged, of course, was the Community and Schools Initiative, where we partnered with them and with our local school districts to help explore that model, and the Community Foundation of Southeast Michigan, where we funded a pilot around community policing that our sheriff's department ultimately benefited from, in addition to other schools, but other communities. But this kind of takes it to the next step. This creates, and you all had added to the budget $300,000, which is the pot of money that we're using to create these positions. So what this would do is it would create an officer, like the lead person, the strategic partnership and strategic initiatives officer, and also someone more junior to work with that person who is really follows some of the job descriptions that we had in the grant administrator area for the county. So the lead person would really be responsible at a very high level, you know, making those relationships with the external partners, not only to see if we can draw down more funding, but also to make sure that their work is aligned with our priorities, so that when they're doing funding initiatives in Oakland County, whether it's in the school area, whether it's trails, you know, whatever it might be, they understand what we are doing as a county, and those priorities are all aligned, so that we're kind of maximizing the efforts that are going on in the county. And then also, the other priority of this new area will be to make sure that we have visibility across the whole enterprise in terms of what people need and what grants they could be assisted by, and making sure that those are all coordinated. So that's basically it, 2 positions and a little bit of professional services money, $30,000 that goes with, you know, computers and IT and phones that they need in this type of area.
Thank you very much, Deputy Executive. Commissioner Gershenson.
I think it's great idea. It's been a long time coming. I remember trying to raise money for the Women's Commission, and it was very problematic. Had to go through a lot of different channels. And also, I think Brooks had a grant department with Christy
Zamora.
Yeah,
Right,
that's gonna be one of my
and we all missed it when that went away, which was, I think, geared towards the arts more. But my question is, that has come up before, I understand going out for grants, what about accepting donations?
Oh, you mean like private donations?
Animal shelter.
That's definitely something this office could explore, that is allowable, that we could look into.
Okay, because I know there were a lot of legal questions about us accepting money, so that would be great to get
Right.
that clarified.
And we looked into that at the state too. The Secretary of State had a strong interest in accepting additional donations for voter education and other things. So we can definitely look into it here as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Spitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Gershon asked one of my questions, 'cause I thought we already kind of had grant writing. But my other question is, from a volume perspective, because you're right, with everything we did through COVID and all the grants that were coming through that we were giving out, there was a lot. There was a lot of heavy lifting that was done by, internal and some external support. Going forward, do we expect that level of grants to be the same, lower, or we don't know yet because we don't know what is really out there because we really haven't had somebody to do such a thing.
Exactly.
That's it, okay.
And there also are more opportunities, whether they stay around for 10 years, no one can predict. But the opportunities as it relates to the sustainability space and the EV space and the transport, and the opportunities like reconnecting communities, there's a lot of infrastructure and a lot of other funding out there that we want to make sure that we seize on.
And I'm glad you brought those up. Is this group, I'm gonna call it, going to support all the county? Because I know all the departments have grants. The sheriff department has grants. Workforce development has grants. I mean, there's grants all through the county that we get in on a regular basis that this board has to approve. So is this person gonna
I don't
get into
know.
that
I don't
too, or-
envision, there's no reason to change what's working. The sheriff's department, they have people who are working in this area. I think this person, to the extent that they have visibility and can help, that'll be important, but they won't take over. They won't say, okay, now I'm gonna do all your grant writing for you, unless it's really necessary that we have a specialty in a certain area. So I don't see them centralizing it. I see them supporting and elevating and making sure that we have visibility into everything and that we're maximizing those efforts.
Okay. So my final question would be then, because you made a comment about externals grants and people within the community, within all of Oakland County doing grants themselves. So is this group also going to look at things that may not directly affect the government, Oakland County government, but affect the residents of the county, going to get some of those grants that might involve some of the CBTs or other aspects? Let's say senior centers or something else where we might not get involved. Marsha brought up a good point about, doing something, trying to get some donations, some grant money for some of the projects that we do that, they're special projects, but they might not affect county government per se.
We do that now, right? And this person can help increase that as well. Like when we hear about a grant that may not be relevant to us, like the state had a senior grant, we notify our CVTs about that. Or when our sustainability officer hears about something that may not impact us, we let the CVT. So we do that now, but I would definitely hope that we could increase that effort as well.
Okay.
And I want to just piggyback something that Commissioner Gershenson said, which I think is also important, is when it comes to some of the foundations and even, some of the other regional or state entities, I think too often they've overlooked Oakland County because they think, oh, you guys got it covered, right? But I think what we found during COVID is that when you're active in that partnership, they do want to pay attention to our residents here. And so it's really important that we have a high-level person who can build up those strategic partnerships so that they can really help in Oakland County areas.
Commissioner Juliet.
Okay, thank you. You somewhat answered my question about the CVT. So some of the CVTs are not as equipped or able to handle the grant writing. Will the county be able to assist at all with that, or are they?
I think what we can look to do, and initially when we first started thinking about this, some folks suggested that one approach is to just kind of do a request for a procurement where we would have on retainer special entities who could do grant writing. We decided that really wasn't the type of approach we wanted to take. We may still do that because oftentimes when you're pursuing a specific grant, you need that expertise in that type of grant writing. So it's possible if we do that, we could have contracts that CVTs could piggyback on, but I don't necessarily see this office, except for making them aware and maybe providing some type of guidance, I don't see them being capable of doing a lot of work on behalf of the CVTs.
Okay.
I don't wanna mislead anyone that they're gonna be able to be a grant writing entity for, more people than just the county.
Okay, all right, thank you. My other question is, you talked about the partnerships that we had with the entities going with the COVID money. So will this person will they still be contracting with these entities, or will they then take control of what be contracted with the entities to do?
I don't think they will. I mean, to a certain extent, and I like if you take United Way, for example, with the COVID money beginning to recede and us appropriating the remainder, I don't know that any of us envision a large grant that we're gonna be giving out, that we would need an entity like United Way to work on. But that doesn't say that the relationship with United Way is really important, because they do a lot of work in our county. They do a lot of work around food insecurity. They're gonna be the hub around the Community Schools Initiative, so they're gonna be supporting the schools. So we need to have a relationship with them to align our priorities and make sure that they're maximizing the work that they do here in Oakland County. So I see it more like that. This group would not, I don't know that we're gonna be implementing any large grants going forward that they would take on.
All right, perfect, thank you.
And they're not gonna replace any work that already goes on in terms of fiscal services, right? The compliance that they do for grants, that would stay as it is.
Okay.
Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Given that this is an appointed position, what is the measure of success?
Well, I think the measure of success is going to be the relationships that we develop and that we maintain, and there's going to be a measure of success in terms of financial, and whether we increase donations and contributions and support to Oakland County programs.
Okay. Lastly, just to kind of revisit one of the questions that Commissioner Spiz had asked. It sounds like this position is only seeking out grants for the executive office with the caveat of supporting other departments, but specifically as a primary role and responsibility that they would be seeking out grants.
Yeah, I want to be careful about the distinctions, because right now, we work hand in glove, for example, with Water Resources in terms of grants that they seek out, right? And making sure that they're aware of federal opportunities that we become aware of through our federal lobbyists. We work with all of the county in terms of earmark requests. So there's not, when you say executive office for the other, I mean, I do see it as more collaborative than that, like the involvement. And it's also not gonna, there could be grants that the health department still leads on, but this person is aware of it and is supporting it and making sure that it's aligned, with all the other opportunities and kind of establishing priorities.
Sure. So I guess, would this position seek out grant opportunities for other departments?
If they become aware of a grant opportunity that they think is more relevant to the clerk's office or the sheriff's office or Water Resources or the treasurer's office, absolutely, they would then reach out to those areas.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. That was a good question. Thank you.
Anything else?
I do have a follow-up question to Commissioner Nelson's question, from level of success. You mentioned financial. So would we expect that the increase in grant funds that the county brings in because of these two individuals or this group would more than pay for themselves?
Absolutely, that's the hope, right? I mean, I do think that when we looked at different models and we talked to other people, that's what you always want to know. A lot of people think that it will, more than pay for itself.
So it'll be self-sustaining, okay,
That'll be a good measure of success.
thank you.
I mean, let's give it a year or two, but.
Well, so I was gonna say, is there any timeline where we can expect an update?
Yeah, well, I think as soon as it's approved and as soon as the position is established and they're started, I would hope that that person would be in touch very much with you all, right? Because you all have relationships in the communities as well that they're gonna wanna, very much be aware of.
But I mean,
And needs, right, like the one that you mentioned, the women's one, I mean, they're gonna want, because maybe they run into a conversation with Kresge or another one, and they're like, hey, but did you know that we have this going on? And someone's like, oh, we could fund that, you know what I mean, like they wanna be aware of everything, because as they're having conversations, things may come up about someone's interest.
so I'm also referring to some sort of report to us about progress.
Mhm. What do you envision, like what would work? And where would it go to?
Yeah, well,
I mean,
that's
Lago,
why I
we're
was
here at
wondering,
Lago, right,
would it-
because of
would
the
this be
creating the position.
liaison committee.
Maybe I
If-
can talk to Patty about that as well,
Yeah, I was
in
gonna bring
terms
that up,
of,
because my question was, and I don't know if countywide, do we have a good list of all the grants? Because every department kind of does some of their own, which you
right,
mentioned.
right.
So who tracks all the grant money that comes in? Because you want to create a baseline, basically.
Right,
And once you create that baseline, here's what we've got, what we've received over the last couple of years, and it's gonna be
I mean,
fluctuating a little
fiscal
bit.
services would be the only
Hope
entity
so,
that would be able to
But do they categorize it? They
that.
may not create a report, but they
Right.
should be able to do it relatively simple.
Right.
And then we have a baseline, and then we could use that as a KPI to see if it was beneficial or not.
Right.
Give it 3 years and evaluate it after 3 years, and if it's not self-sustaining, we have another discussion.
Right,
Right.
and I think we'd have to, you have to kind of work with fiscal services, and I can start this with Kyle to go through in terms of what you include, right? Because, each budget has grant lines and things like that, and some of them are CDBG and other things that are formula or like more automatic. We're looking for the things that weren't gonna be coming here, but for an effort that we took, not the ones that flow more naturally.
Yeah, and I understand that. And actually, going back, I think in the budget presentation that Executive Coulter gave, there is a section in the pie chart that says grants and the amount of revenue that comes in. I don't know what's included in that pie chart, but something's there. So the data's there somewhere, which is what's included in that data. And we would just have to confirm what do we want included in that data to measure the KPIs against this.
And then when you mention fiscal services, they report to finance, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that may be a more appropriate committee for
That's
them
right.
to report to.
Any other discussion? Commissioner?
Just a quick question, because we're focusing on revenue that is coming in with this strategic partnership and initiatives officer. What about the list of grant revenue that is going out from us as well? Will they be working along that line? Because, we give grants as well. So just maybe a list of who we're granting as well as the list of who we're receiving would be helpful.
And I know we have to fully do that as it relates to the American Rescue Plan dollars. I hope that you all saw the report that we submitted to the federal government about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, which I think did a nice job of describing how we spent ARP dollars with some stories and things like that. But we need to make sure, and that's on the website, but we need to make sure that that's more readily accessible to you and to our residents as well. Like you'll remember when we did CARES Act, we did this, it took us until after the fact, but we did do a huge storyboard of every grant, the newspaper articles, who got it, maps of where it went to. We don't have the capacity to do that in real time, but I know that we need to do a better job of making sure people know how much good work our finances, how our grants have made in the community. The priority.
Any last suggestion?
I was just gonna bring, you mentioned that, I don't believe we've seen that report that you submitted to federal government.
Okay, I'll make sure.
Give us a copy or get Patty a copy,
yeah,
she can,
yeah,
that would be great, thank you.
Anything else? All right, Madam Clerk, please vote the vote. Thank you for that discussion, everyone.
That's good stuff. This is exciting.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy Executive. All right, moving right along. I am going to just open up. Item E, Board of Commissioners Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Oakland County DHS Agency Board for discussion.
You mean the application?
Oh, that's what this is.
This is
Yeah.
an appointment.
She's applying for reappointment. And I just wanna say on her behalf, do we need a motion?
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, the motion will be to recommend to the attorney for us.
Right, okay, so no motion yet.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So Cherie is appealing for reappointment, and this is a very well functioning board. There's 3 members, I think it's Dudley, Dr. Dudley who chairs it, and Cherie, and then there's a third person that we have.
Margaret Warner.
Who is it?
Margaret Warner, the governor's appointee.
Right, Margaret Warren, and we can always invite them in for an update, they usually do come in. But I know they're doing great work, and I would recommend that we reappoint.
And she's already been there for a decade, she's consistent, yeah.
Well, I think Commissioner Gerson answered my question, because I didn't know if it was are we submitting 2 positions, 1 position, but I think you answered, Dr. Dudley's already there, so we're just reappointing the open position which Cherie is currently sitting in. but just
Correct.
looking to reappoint. Okay, so that's clarification for me.
Her current term expires on Halloween.
Yep.
Just a little bit of time. Alright, so I will entertain a motion to reappoint then Commissioner Gershenson. Seconded by Commissioner Rhodes, Ben, please.
We can still always ask them to come in for an update that you
Yeah.
used to give it, or is it to
Yeah.
your committee?
I presume it was to Penny.
that
They've been
did
to
it?
public health.
Okay.
That's
You have 8 yeas or nays?
Thank you very much. I'm gonna. Okay. Informal straw poll. I'm just gonna break the rules for a little bit. Jim's 30 minutes away, he'd really prefer to be here in person. How are we going?
30 minutes,
We have time.
Okay,
because our next meeting is 11.
yeah,
Somebody has
So-
10 minutes.
that's what you're saying, yeah. Okay, yeah, alright, pedal to the metal. We will just move on then to item F. And I would entertain a motion to recommend and forward to finance, Commissioner Spiz, seconded by Commissioner Gershenson. Any discussion on this item? No discussion.
Just for
Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just as some clarification, I think it's pretty clean cut. I know we've had conversations leading into this year and term. What kind of threw me off was the second whereas in regards to the 5% increase for the fiscal year 2023. Is that just referencing the history?
Yeah.
So we're just looking at a 3%, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
same question.
Yeah.
For clarification purposes.
Yeah,
That is what
appreciate it.
happened last year, yeah,
So we're voting a 3% increase for all countywide elected officials for
Right.
2024.
correct.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So Karen, choose people money.
Okay. Ben, please pump the vote.
So I get yours.
I'm gonna need it this year.
It is less than inflation, so it's a
What's
cut.
inflation? What is it?
It was 7% last year, so all those in favor of this pay cut,
You have 8 yeas and a nays.
thank you very much.
Same pay cut as everybody else receiving,
Well,
What?
the 3%.
I can't leave the regular agenda, right? Can't do it.
You could recess.
I guess we'll just do that.
Wait a minute. Oh, we've already done it. Okay,
Jimmy.
I have a question for you. But it's not on the agenda anymore, but
No, we'll get that.
we have a committee, the Historic Commission, And I've noticed over the last month or so, there's been a few resignations. In fact, recently, the chair resigned. So I think we need to get an update, what's happening over there? I mean, there's a lot of historic restoration renovations that need to happen. We need to have a functioning committee. So I'd like to find out who it is that can give us a report on their status.
Sure.
Maybe we need to reappoint new members. I'm not sure where they stand, but I know I've gotten 2 notices of resignations. And why? Is something going on over there that we need to know about, or?
Okay, yeah, could we,
Commissioner,
yeah,
when did the second one come in?
I just need the
Is it
the
more
chair. It's Kraft, is Jim Kraft?
Just came in.
That's all.
Yeah. I just didn't understand it. And I actually saw him at an event in Pontiac, didn't say anything, so.
Didn't you talk about McGinnis?
No, I saw him at McGinnis's event.
Oh, okay.
This Jim Kraft was the chair.
this is Oakland County Historical, not,
Yes,
okay,
I'm sorry, our department.
Okay.
interesting. Similar legislative housekeeping rules or questions. I have been thinking about reports for a hot minute, and it seems like there's like this constant conversation of report comes in, we didn't see it, it goes somewhere, someone saw something. How do you all want to do reports better? Because I feel like we say the same thing all the time.
That's a good point. You mean the ones that come into communications
Yeah,
that we
anything, like,
don't
do we
read?
want a standing report of reports from staff, or do we want, like, I don't know. They have an archive, cause we've talked, and we could in theory just like go through the archive of reports, but I don't know, is there a way to access Commissioner Spitz?
I guess my one question is to add on top of yours, because I know in this committee and a few other committees, we ask for regular updates and or reports. Personally, I don't think we get them on a regular basis. So I'd like to see a schedule of reports that are due to us, because I know some we ask for quarterly, some we ask for yearly. When are they supposed to come in based on our motions? I don't track it. I'm not the staff. Do you guys track it, Patty, on when the reports are supposed to come in? And do we actually get them? Okay. It'd be good to see that schedule of reports that are supposed to come in.
How would you like in an email or printed with?
I'm electronic, I prefer email or something.
Okay, good. Okay, Commissioner.
But you guys wanna get
So,
high tech, put it in
on-
a Teams folder.
On every agenda, under communications, it has the reports. It's been my experience that no one reads them. So I don't think this system works. I think we really need to look at, I would rather have someone, if they wanna submit a written report, great, but I'd rather have them come and say, this is a brief, this is a synopsis of what's in the report. I don't want them to have to go through the whole report, but I do think it's like it goes into this never land and we don't see it, and somebody says, well, we submitted the report, we're like, oh, really, when? Oh, well, last August, and we just didn't read it, and we didn't acknowledge it because it's under communications.
Commissioner Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it would be helpful, I love having this conversation, because I do feel like things that maybe do go on that communications kind of gets overlooked, gets lost. But I think it would be helpful to also have access to like a due date. Like, I would like to know when such and such report is coming. I think that's a good organization method. I think it holds some accountability. But it also lets us know if there aren't reports coming in, hey, let's reach out to the department, right? But I think it would be helpful to have an overview of whether it be a document, be sent out, but I think it would be helpful to know when reports are coming to the committee and what, I mean, there's been so many different reporting over now, gosh, since CARES Act, that it does get lost, for sure. So I think this discussion is great and amazing, and I think it would be nice to have already a timeline of when those reports are anticipated to hit committee. Because that way too, it just gives us one more reminder to really hone in under those communication items when oftentimes we have very filled agendas that it could get lost in.
Commissioner Spitz.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Commissioner Gershison's comment, I make sure to read all of them, but I I believe there's cases,
I'm impressed.
there's the cases where not everybody reads all the communications reports. But, I mean, I'd be straightforward, when I do read some of them, I'm like, okay, what is this in reference to again? Because there's so many reports that come in, I have to refresh my memory on exactly what it was and what was the avenue we were asking for reports on, where, and then you have to go back in time and actually, like, okay, this was approved, this was the report. You have to kind of figure, well, do I do that? No, I don't go that deep into figuring it out again. That's where I think my week is trying to get some of the history that the reports come in for X reason. So to your point, I would love to have an executive summary, have that individual come and report, give us an executive summary where we could ask some questions again, because it might refresh our memories on certain topics that we were talking about at the time.
Would you prefer the department or person who wrote the report to give an executive summary at each of our meetings, or just have an analyst give an
I'm open.
Whatever they think. We don't wanna make it laborious
Right.
to
They don't
the
have to go through the whole
departments, so
report,
whatever
just
they
know.
think. And brief.
Would that be
Yeah,
okay?
executive summary.
Yeah, the analyst team tracks it. They can make a list of expected upcoming reports, and usually the title is indicative of what it's related to.
Could we just, I don't know if I can speak for every committee, but at least for our committee then, could we ask whenever we receive a report? Well, first of all, two asks, if I'm hearing everything correctly. First ask is for us to receive via email a timeline or catalog, or
I like schedule.
a schedule, yeah, of reports that we've asked for and have received or are expecting, kind of all the above. A status update. And then the second ask is anytime we receive one, to have our analyst team just briefly give us an executive summary and be prepared for questions. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's fine.
Another thought is if we get notice of the reports is for, if a commissioner wants more detail, for them to reach back out and say, I'd like to get a little bit more. We don't need to have a report from every department if it isn't totally relevant, if there aren't really things that we're interested in knowing about. But that's just another way for us to take responsibility to say, oh, that report's in, I'd like to get a little more information.
Commissioner Jackson.
And then as Commissioner Nelson pointed out, that we asked for a lot of newer reports based upon funding. So maybe we could start with those being on the schedule and then continue upon the reports that we may desire. So I think that we have a lot of reports, but still there's some that we need. And so as far as if we produce a schedule, we might be able to capture others that we may desire. So. But the ARPA dollars and CARES Act funding, and we asked for updates and reports, those for sure.
I'm good to go for recess,
Okay.
until whenever. We'll call it 10.
I probably will not return.
Okay,
Okay, cause we do have another committee at 11.
yeah.
So I don't wanna push that out.
I mean, as soon as it bleeps on, I'm happy to come back, but, oh no, he'll be here in person. As soon as he comes in, I'm happy to come back. But until then, do I need a motion? I can just go.
No, just recess.
Right?
Pardon? Public comment.
I don't think I can do that yet. Can I do that?
Well,
You can do whatever you want.
yeah, you can.
Can we do public
recess.
comment?
All right, I'll do, anyone from the public wishing to address us on
Just
anything?
do it twice, do one.
Okay. Oh, cause I'd have to do it twice then. Oh, okay. Well, let's just go to recess.
So Mike, your question about are we gonna be receiving the same amount of grant
Hi, everyone.
Move forward.
We're coming back. And I'm going to resume this meeting at 10:57. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioners Joliet?
Here.
Jackson?
Here.
Luce?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Hoffman? Spiz? Nobody's absent with notice. Johnson?
Present.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Do we need to Bob wait too? I know
Oh,
Mike.
and I'm here.
He's out on the outside on a phone.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, okay.
Commissioner Gershenson, I have you down here. You have 6 for the quorum.
Awesome. I hope Mike comes back in soon, or Bob does. Anyway, all right, we'll just move right on to regular item A. Hello, the
Hello.
floor is yours.
I wanna apologize first of all on this scheduling thing. I regret to make you all wait for me, so please accept my apologies.
Accept it with lunch.
All right,
I'll
whenever you're ready. What time? Well, I thought I'd just focus on what appears to be, and I'm sure Commissioner Johnson understands this, to be a historic month or two ahead of us with respect to the legislature. For 30 years that I've been around, I haven't seen anything like what we're experiencing now. What we have is 2 members of the House Democrat caucus running for mayor, right? So should one or both of them win, and it looks pretty good for both of them, is just what we're seeing, that would change the membership, the serving members in the House. So, obviously, the governor would have to call special elections to fill those seats, but there has to be a time period, as you all know, for people who run their primaries and then eventually face off in a general. So that would take a number of months. You may have read in the paper, one of the issues that is outstanding or heard about is the fact that there are a number of issues passed and signed into law that were never given immediate effect because there weren't immediate effect votes present. So that means, for example, the moving of the presidential primary wouldn't take effect until 90 days after sine die, which is typically in December, 3rd week of December. Well, that 90-day period would be too far along for local clerks and everybody to be prepared for movement in the presidential primary. So there is conversation, a lot of conversation, that we're hearing from leadership, from the administration, from House and Senate leadership, that there is a likelihood that sine die may occur sooner in order to trigger the clock in order to meet the deadlines of next year. So that means currently, it seems to be consensus, maybe you know more insider than I do, but it seems very unlikely that we will go very far into October. So that means, we have 3 session days a week. Well, this week we only have 1. So that means, probably about 12 session days. And the governor has made an announcement of what she would like to get done in this next few months. And there's a very aggressive House and Senate agenda as well. But in all practicality, the amount of session days that are available, if they do sine die, say, the 2nd week of October, there's not a whole heck of a lot that can happen. The next step is that the governor then can call a special session. But in the special session, she has to write the specific items, say she has 7 items she would like to bring the legislature back for to address. However, the legislature doesn't have to come back. House and Senate leadership can ignore it, but she can't do anything about it. Probably not likely to happen, but that's another opportunity, for example. The one item I think everyone is most not concerned about, but eyeing is a supplemental.
there appears to be, and again, you work for one of the bosses on the probes, there appears to be a desire on the part of all the administration of both houses to address a K-12 supplemental, increasing some funding to K-12. And it would also leave available an opportunity to maybe come with a couple more pots of money into this supplemental for projects, we can call them. So this all begins tomorrow as they all return from summer recess. And only time will tell as to what happens. You know, having such a slight majority, as you have experienced here before on this commission, if one person is gone, stop, wait, go to the next day, right? So that's kind of where the state legislature is.
So who are the two that are running for mayor?
In Macomb, you have Lori Stone, the longtime mayor, didn't make the ballot.
Right.
So, and then Kevin Coleman in Westland, who's pretty likely to pull that thing off. Everybody that I know in Westland says he's gonna win that, so.
So are they both Dems?
Yep.
So then Dems lose their majority?
It would go to a tied house, so the Republican caucus could call to redo the speakership and throw everything, so yeah.
And so all this could happen, what's the period of time that?
Well, what's interesting is, the Westland mayor stepped down, so if Coleman, whoever wins the mayorship goes in immediately because he's not fulfilling a
So
term.
is that November?
Yes.
November.
And then Stone would begin in January. The problem is, they are both very competitive mayoral races. It's gonna be very hard to get those two members to drive to Lansing, sit on the House floor for 8 hours and drive back when they're within days of an election. So effectively, you know, they're gone.
Commissioner Julia.
I have a question in regards to the timing of the primary. One of my clerks had asked me that she heard that the primary may change for local too.
May, yeah, there's so many lawyers looking into,
Would that
What's
be
gonna happen here?
decided on at that vote?
I don't know.
She'd heard of a June primary possibly for local.
yeah, I don't know that there's consensus within the legal community as to what exactly is going to happen when they use this.
So you're not sure if that language or that date is part of this vote for the
Correct,
presidential?
yes,
Can you find out?
yes.
Okay, thank you. I'd appreciate it, so would she.
I'm sure a lot would, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
It's confusing.
It is.
Well, don't, it's not just you, none of us. Like I said, I've been here 30 years, I've never seen anything like it. And obviously you have a speaker who's only been around for, I don't know, 16 months, having to endure all of this stuff and go through all this stuff. So it's difficult to get a beat on I don't think anybody knows what's gonna happen, honestly.
It's not exactly encouraging, it's not exactly uplifting, it's our state government.
Sorry.
Jim can fix that.
I just wanted to give you the facts, that's all.
No, I appreciate it, it's just,
It's weird,
yeah.
it really is, yeah.
Any other questions, comments? No? Do you have any questions for us or anything you want us to watch out for?
No, I think we had a pretty good deal get done on the Pontiac situation. So I think we worked very well with the executive's office to get that done, and it was a huge win. Patty Dibb has asked me to look into some funds in this K-12 supplemental that could go for what do they call police in the school, specific name?
SRO.
SROs. So evidently the funding from last budget's SRO money is gone. and it'll probably get put in for next year's budget, I would think. But if there's an opportunity to get this supplemental done and we could put some money in for SROs, then she has indicated to me that we wanna work on it, so.
With nothing else?
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience.
We already did public comment, but I'll go ahead and do it again. Anyone from the public wishing to address us on any item at all? No, seeing none. Anyone have anything else to buy, any other business announcements for True?
Stay here, I'm leaving.
Okay.
No? I will adjourn the meeting then at 11:07. Thanks, everyone.
You're up.
Get it, Miss Penny.